Steve Moran here with my friend Sarah Hoit, and I want to welcome you to Tech Tuesday. You're probably saying, where is Abbie? Abbie's in New York today, and so she asked me to step in. But before I get into my conversation with Sarah Hoit, let's take a look at this. Well, hey, Sarah.
Hey, Steve.
I am so excited about being on Tech Tuesday with you, and we so often are so passing in the and just in the hallways of conferences. It's like I get more time with you here on live TV than I do in person. Although I get to see you next week at Argentum, and we'll talk a little bit about that along the way.
Can't wait.
But let's start with who you are.
Well, I am a crazy career social impact entrepreneur. So, Steve, as you know, I've spent my career founding and launching startup companies that, for me, were fulfilling unmet needs in the marketplace. So that's been my path for 35 years.
Cool. And already I just want to put up, we got one fan watching. I'm excited about hearing from you too. So what are you currently working on?
Well, I am currently, and as you know, in the middle of the pandemic, we had the good, fortunate, connected living after 14 passionate years of co-founding and running Connected Living to bring technology to seniors. I am on a new chapter in life. Omega Healthcare Investors bought Connected Living. It's on an amazing path. We can talk more about that later, helping lots and lots of communities. But as you know, one of my life passions has been trying to solve the Alzheimer's pandemic, probably the greatest global pandemic we have and growing. And I have the very good fortune to be working with a very innovative science, technology, and team full of scientists at a company called BioV Inc., where we have some very exciting molecules and trials for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other diseases.
So let's talk a little bit more. So will this take... And I mean, I know it's still in trials, and I know, as is always the case with these things, we have to be careful because there are lots of legal restrictions and those kinds of things. But is this something that will help people that have advanced Alzheimer's, people that have early stage Alzheimer's? I mean, as you're sort of imagining what it might be now.
Well, I'll tell you exactly where it is, Steve. And as somebody who has tried so hard in my career to be part of the solution, I am so excited every morning to wake up with these scientists and this team and see what we can bring forth. So here's where we are. I've joined up with several of the smartest people I know on the planet. A scientist who came out of retirement. Our chief medical officer used to be with J&J. Our CEO, Kong Do, is someone I've known since we went to Dartmouth together. And has been very involved in the pharma and strategy and medical side of the world. And we have several molecules within BioV, but one of which, NE3107, is a molecule that has both great hope for helping with Alzheimer's and with Parkinson's, neurodegenerative diseases. And we are in that, remember back to the science labs, right? We can't tell you anything yet. We can tell you what we think the molecule does, which is so unbelievably exciting because it brings a very different solution to this disease. But we're in the hypothesis stage. So we're starting stage 3 trials with the Alzheimer's trials. And we actually have a number of our senior living partners who are wanting to be a part of this. So if somebody's out there listening and wants to be part of the solution and the science for the future, we are enrolling now. And we also, similarly, the molecule is very exciting for Parkinson's, both of which have neurodegenerative properties. And one of the most exciting things about it, without getting too scientific, this is Tech Tuesday, is the molecule is known for decreasing inflammation, which is one of the things that really causes our cells to break down and do the bad things that happen with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. It also has a property of increased insulin absorption and energy absorption. So if we just try to think in layman's terms, if we're decreasing inflammation, which is bad, and we're increasing energy and insulin absorption, which is good, then our cells will be healthier to not do some of the things that happen in these very debilitating diseases. So it's hypothesis time. We know what the molecule does in the labs and in the early trials, and we are rapidly in both stage 2 with Parkinson's and stage 3 trials with Alzheimer's, and very excited to see what the science brings us in the next year. And I'm working already with and talking to so many of our partners and friends in the industry, of course, who care so much about this. I would have driven Scott, as you know, my loved one with Alzheimer's, and sadly he no longer qualifies because he's so far along in his journey, but I would have taken him anywhere to be a part of a solution like this. So it's very exciting.
So I've got a sort of mostly just for fun, but I like this idea of absorbing more energy. Does that mean I can use it to lose weight?
Well, you know what? That would be an interesting hypothesis. We can test that out, Steve.
That's right. Well, maybe you can guinea pig on me. I don't know. Anyway, so I guess one of the other things, whenever I hear people talking about cures for Alzheimer's, I find it to be very exciting, right? But there's this little piece of me, and I think there are a lot of people who think this, but nobody really wants to say it, is that if you could come up with a cure tomorrow, and I know this isn't a tomorrow thing that you're working on, but if you had a cure tomorrow, it could be kind of devastating for the memory care business, right?
Steve, wouldn't that be the nicest outcome of all, right? I mean, really, they're with an aging population, there's so many seniors for us to live with and celebrate and care for. If we could do something to impact this devastating disease that affects over 6 million in the US and many, many more globally, and the numbers are staggering for what will be the case in 25 years. I think anybody in this industry and the memory care providers would have plenty of other things to do with their beautiful buildings. But the fact of the matter is, people have been trying for years for a solution, and we don't have any. And but there's lots of hopeful research going on, and I think one of the things that I am going to passionately do in all my endeavors, we can talk about others, is try to globally bring together the leaders to shine a light on this and to have a voice for Alzheimer's. It's still a bit in the shadows, and I think from funding and legislation and people pulling together their resources. At BioV, we're a little bit different. I said to Kong, my good friend, when he first asked me to be on the board, and I said, you had me at hello, of course. And he said, actually, I really need you to help me come run this place. We have so much to do. And, I said to him, I will come under one condition, that this is a partnership, that if we have something that the world can learn from, that we band together, nonprofits, for-profits, senior living, we have to solve this. And it's not going to be one thing. It is complex. What's really exciting is where so many have gone after the plaques and tangles and later stages of the disease. Part of what we are hopeful for in our hypothesis and our molecule is that it will hit an earlier end of the disease and keep our cells healthy and reverse some of the damage, is the hypothesis. In fact, our trials are even going to be mild to moderate, which is later on than most people do trials, so that we can really show the most efficacy. But I think, one of the things I want to say to people as a caregiver myself, as someone, I am not a scientist, but I have read every book, I've talked with everyone, and I have lived this, is that there is a lot that we know. There's a lot that we do know, and a lot that we can do, that that maybe everybody doesn't know, and that affect how our cells are going to react and affect our longevity. And so we can talk about that a little bit, but I think a lot of this has to be a body of science and a recognition that it is going to be a series of solutions that come together. It's more complex than one molecule.
Yeah. Well, so do you have any kind of a time frame?
We do. We are actually, it's happening now. I've been on with some of our favorite people all day. I won't name them all, but some of the top leaders in the industry are very excited about being part of the trials, both for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and really using senior living as we have aspirational. We not only have residents and families who want to be part of the solution, not only for them, but as you know, I see my kids' faces every day for the generations to come. And so, the timing is now. We're enrolling currently for our Parkinson's trial. The early trials that we have done with this molecule on animals have shown very rapid improvements in motor control and absorption. We are already enrolling for the stage 3 Alzheimer's trials.
Well, we haven't
participate right now could reach out to us and be a part of it. And in fact, BioV is offering transportation and the ability to get your loved one. As I said, I would have brought Scott anywhere for this. We have about 40 trial sites that are stood up, and you can see the map on our BioV site. But we're just, Steve, the timing is now. This is happening now. What happens in the next year and what we see in these trials, the stage 2 in Parkinson's and stage 3 in Alzheimer's, will really inform what happens next. And we've been a bit fast tracked because there really isn't anything out there yet like this. And there are so many millions of people who need hope and hopefully a piece toward a solution.
So I know that there are going to be people who are watching this either live or in the coming days who are going to say, well, I want to get my community involved in those trials. Is that possible? And Absolutely. If so, how would they do that?
They can reach out. They can reach out to me.
Good.
And they can also go to our BioV Pharma. If you look at BioV Inc. on the web, but BioV Pharma, they can, the trial information is there. And we are really excited to have the leaders in the industry already wanting to participate, because I think for all of us, we know how many residents in all of our buildings are affected by this, those who are diagnosed and those who aren't diagnosed. And so it's just it's a hopeful moment. And whatever the outcomes to our hypotheses and to this good science, just to be able to be a part of the solution and to be trying is really exciting. But we are some of the smartest scientists and people that I've ever met in business are the ones who came out of retirement to do this, having never really seen an opportunity quite like this to change things. So we're hopeful that we're right, and we don't know all the impact it will have. But here's what we do know, and if I could spend a minute on what we do know. We know that cultures who eat better food, right? And we know have less inflammation and do better and have less cases of Alzheimer's, right? Food matters. What we put in our body matters. And if it's going to come back to inflammation, which is a root of a lot of things going wrong, and there's a long science behind it, putting the right things in our body actually really, really, really matters. Sleep really matters. And how much sleep, which I think people have, and I'm talking to my kids very directly about this right now. It is the only time our brains can cleanse. It is the only time that we can get rid of some of the junk that's in there is when we are in deep sleep. And so there are things that we can do and that we do know between what we eat, our sleep patterns, trying to keep stress to lower levels in terms of what that does to our cells and inflammation. So mind-body practices and breathing, and those types of things as we are working on scientific solutions that will help solve as people have gotten further down the path. And, one of the most important things we can all do is something that the pandemic took a little bit away from us, but is coming back full force, is active socialization, learning new things. A lot of the things that connected living was set up to do, to connect people, to bring lifelong learning. All of these things we know actually have a very profound effect on the science and our aging and what happens with Alzheimer's. And um, so anyway, those are just a couple clues from the girl who's read every book and is now very hopeful that our science can really bring an additional prohibitive um, molecule to the table.
Yeah, it's really exciting to me that we have some drugs and medication that can help, but it feels like there's so many things that we actually know work to not necessarily stop Alzheimer's, but to significantly delay it. I a few years ago there was a lot of talk about the nun study, right, where you had nuns
The blue
whose
zones
brains were
and the nuns.
really in the blue zones, right, where we know that right now today it's possible with lifestyle changes that you're talking about to be able to significantly delay the onset, the symptoms of Alzheimer's, and yet we live in a society that tends to like pills and a lot better than we like that what's sort of seen as hard work or denial of pleasure, right?
Right, right. No, it's very true. And I think in general, while there is a longer list of what we don't know, and I won't pretend on this call yet that even we have the solutions. We
Right.
don't know. We have some really exciting science with really hopeful possibilities, and we have a hypothesis. We're back in the labs in school, and it's really exciting. But we also do know around that the things that hurt our bodies and that hurt our cells.
Yeah.
And all of this does come back to some very fundamental things like inflammation. I've been doing that crazy cryotherapy where you get in the ice boxes at negative 166, and man, do you feel like $1,000,000 when you come out. That kind of reset, the decreasing inflammation in your body. I mean, some of these things are really, really interesting. But I think that what is also so promising about some of these studies that we're working on right now is it's a very different way of going after it. And it's the kind of thing that if we're right on what this molecule does, NE3107, it's the kind of thing we might be taking preventatively. So stay tuned. But
Yeah.
I think that the hopeful thing for me, and the reason I jumped when first I had agreed to be a board member and then agreed to jump in full force, is I know that I'm surrounded by the people in this amazing industry that I love so much who really care and who collectively can bring the people to the table where we can solve this, because we all see our kids and we see our kids' kids. And whether we're solving it for the people we love today, I've got my eyes wide open. I know whatever we're doing right now is not going to help Scott. My
That's right.
loved one who is in the down to about 4 words, but I see everyone else, and I see what we've been through, and I think this is an aspirational group of people, and somehow the world's got to pull together the way we have on other pandemics to try to come up with a solution to this horrific disease.
Well, that's one of the things that I was thinking as you were talking is, what if we put the kinds of resources we put into creating a vaccine for the virus
Exactly.
into Alzheimer's, we might very well have already had it solved. I mean, I know it's a very different equation. We sort of know about viruses and how to create vaccines, but even so, there was this worldwide, just total concentration that in many respects went past politics and borders, and the goal was to get us back to normal.
That's precisely it. And if I have one of, we're all old enough to know our strengths and weaknesses, and one of my gifts is I like to bring people together, and did it in launching national service. Everyone come to the table. There's lots of problems to be solved in this world, and this one isn't going to be solved in silos. We're not going to solve it alone. No one's going to solve it alone. And I think the toll that it takes on all the countries, all the families, all the people, and the numbers are staggering for how it is going to increase with an aging population. We just have to join together with all our best ideas and energy to solve it. And we're also going to be launching a nonprofit called Social Impact Partners that is coming soon, that is going to be a collaboration of for-profit, nonprofit, doesn't matter who you are, all over the globe, coming together to share ideas, inspiration, and voice. And there's going to be some fun things planned. One already that we're about to launch, and we'll be talking about a little bit at Argentum on World Alzheimer's Day, to bring voices together around shedding a light on this disease, and hopefully getting it out of the shadows.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about Argentum. The first thing I want to do is I want to bring up a slide here. We've got a number of our, and this list is not complete. When we could do Foresight TV on Friday, we'll have some additional partners on this list. But we've got some of our people who make what we do here happen, and so we'd love to have you stop by and chat with these guys: Senior Sign, Aegis Therapies, Cavo, Quilt, Glenna Solutions, Welcome Home, and just talk to them about what they're doing to make the industry better for team members, for residents, and ultimately help your bottom line, because the bottom line is still important, right? So
bottom line is very important, but as you know, it's a double bottom line, right?
That's right, it is.
Fundamental career believer that if we're doing the right thing, if we're doing good, if we're patient, if we do join together, if we view a little less the competition and more the collaboration, we will all do better, as will the people that we love and are trying to serve. And I have an exciting thing to shout out too. We have the Women in Leadership group has two very exciting panels with a just world-class group of amazing women leaders from 11 to 1 on Monday. I'm moderating one panel and I'm on the other one. And I have to tell you, this isn't the important thing here too. I remember the last conference, it was probably, we were told it was the most highly attended session, and there were almost as many men in there as women, because this is not this is about women session. It's about we're stronger together. And that in leadership and in this amazing industry, building organizations that have a diverse and the voice of all represented are actually the organizations that are the most successful. And there'll be a chance for a lot of people, men and women, to hear from a lot of the women who have made it to the C-suite, and either by starting their companies or by working their way up, like Colette Gray, who heads our committee from the bottom to the top. And so we hope everybody comes to join us. I know you'll be there. You were a front rower last year.
Well, I'm going to make a terrible confession here in public TV. Right now, my flight doesn't get in until about noon on Monday.
That doesn't work.
However, I've been looking at flight schedules. I've got a commitment on Sunday morning for a charity golf tournament that I committed to a long time ago. And I'm going to try to get some video, because I haven't golfed in like 10 years. And so it should be hilarious. But my plan is to take my suitcase. The golf course is right out by the airport, and I'm hoping I can catch a flight out Sunday afternoon. So I'm going to try to be there. And Farah says that she will be there for sure. And then there's also, I think there's a pink day, right? Where everybody's supposed to wear pink one day. I actually gave away my pink Foresight t-shirt, so I've got to see if I can get another one made before then. So I will be there, but I have my pink pin. So,
I think you're going to look great in pink.
I did. I wore pink at Nick. It was great. So when you sort of look at the senior living industry right now, and specifically when you think about the technology space, because that's what you've been eating and drinking and sleeping for so long, where do you think the new opportunities are? What are the things maybe we are not getting right that we could get better?
You know, I think we've all just lived through two of the more challenging years that anyone's ever faced, and particularly for our industry and for our amazing staff. And for our loved ones who are alone, and just the whole thing. We are not out of it yet, and everyone knows that. People are exhausted. I think technology was one of the bright lights. As the sort of lone voice crying in the wilderness for many years when maybe people weren't paying attention, because as the co-founder of Connected Living over 14 years ago, not everyone thought it was critical back then. We thought technology was going to be quite important. I think one of the silver linings to what has happened in the last couple of years is there isn't a community out there without technology, or it won't exist, right? I mean, in terms of bringing people close and a new way of looking at doctor's visits and engagement and families and all the things that we think should have been there all along, mercifully, the rest of the world paid very close attention. And so I think the investment and the infrastructure and the expectation and the spotlight on how critical technology is to your business and to people's happiness and survival and connection, with or without a pandemic, is truly a bright light. I think innovation probably fast forwarded about 4 or 5 years because of that attention. I think people are getting into it and trying new things like we did with robotics and all kinds of things. So I am very hopeful. I think there's just a very strong group of technology players in senior living, Connected Living being one of them, and so many others. And that, once again, I'm also a believer, the more that people band together, share ideas, focus on what they're really good at, and embrace the others, that this is an opportunity for us to think differently. I don't think doctor's visits will ever be the same again. And that's just a small thing, but nobody has to actually physically leave the community and go to a doctor every time. And that's a revelation. Isn't that lovely? So there are, not to mention the chances for yoga and all those other fun things. But I really do think that was one of the bright lights, that we had a moment of real innovation and acceleration forward.
So I don't know, you may hate this question, so we're going to try it. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You may not have an easy answer at all, and that's okay. If you were going to go start another company that was technology based to serve senior living, where do you think there's a hole that really needs to be plugged?
That is a hard question. It's not the one that I hate, but I do feel I'm very proud of all the technology entrepreneurs out there. I think there's quite a variety of them. And I'm very, very proud of what Connected Living has done and is doing. I'm very proud of all the others. There's such an interesting and different mix of players. And so, gosh, just to think of the whole is hard, because I think if people look, the innovators are out there and doing special things. I guess one place that's in my heart, that's something I can speak for myself, that I would like to bring to light more, is I still feel as if the voice of the senior and the chance to share stories, because they're so important, and to hold on to that voice, particularly as we go back to our last conversation, that memories are disappearing. You know, I was dancing with my guy this past weekend up at his senior living, and he has 4 words, but he knew every word to the songs we were singing, to Sweet Caroline. And, you know, there's stories to be told. There's moments to be shared. There's kind of the real, not the business side, but there's the human side of this. And so the more we can lift that up, which is actually a part of, we are going to have a Voices campaign on World Alzheimer's Day, where people can lift that voice high through song and sharing. But I am wildly proud of both Connected Living and all the other amazing companies out there. And I feel like they kind of had their day in the sun in the middle of the crisis. Their powers and their impact really came to life. So I hope the industry continues to invest in innovation, and that we can lift the voice of this amazing group that we serve.
Yeah, I think that the when I look at senior living, and it's not really a technology solution, but I think it's perhaps the greatest opportunity that gets missed is the storytelling part. There are stories that happen every day. I was talking to a leader, and I actually got an article I'm working on, so we'll sort of get into the details. But it was somebody who, huh?
Let's talk, because this is all
Yeah,
about.
well, we should, because I'll tell you the biggest problem is people just don't think to ask for the stories, or they're not conscious of the story. So I was talking to a leader had been working for a terrible organization. They were making a change, but they'd been so beat up that even though they were going to this fresh organization, they just, they were down. And so I made a suggestion to them. I said, what I'd like you to do is look for one way that you can change somebody's life that first day. Take that story. And I said, my challenge is you come back and tell me that story. And so after the first day, I got on chat and I said, okay, do you have a story for me? And the immediate thing that she said, and I think this is so critical to why it's so hard, is she said, well, it's not really that meaningful a story, but it was kind of meaningful to me. And in fact, it was an amazing story. And I think that what happens is that we're looking for these big, massive stories, right? And it's these little stories.
Every day.
It's your dancing last week,
send
right?
you the video. It was that's the moment, and it's nothing complex. It's nothing earth shattering, but it's game changing. And
that's right.
It is the story, and it's the reality. It's not the science. It's the reality. And it's the reality that when you talk to really any family out there, diagnosed or not, it's impossible not to find a story.
That's right. And we've got to be looking for those stories. We need to be telling those stories to the public. The public will like us better. People will be more attracted to senior living as a place to work. So,
well, guess what?
Sarah,
I'm going to have you as a guest on my Social Impact Partners, because there are stories to tell, and you're one of the best storytellers.
Perfect. I can hardly wait. So, Sarah, we are out of time here, and this has been so much fun. I look forward to seeing you next week in Minneapolis. For the rest of you who are out there, if you're there, come find me, come say hello. Maybe we can shoot a little video together. That would be fantastic. And with that, we are going to sign out. Sarah, why don't you hang on for just a minute after we're done?
Great. Thank you so much, Steve.